بكم وحياكم الله في هذا اللقاء الجديد من برنامج حديث الرقيب. واليوم حديثنا مختلف الملامح بقضية متخصصة عن التجارة البينية وتشجيع المبادرات التجارية، طبعا من خلال ضيفي الموجود معي هون من مكتب الاتحاد الأوروبي في القدس الEU، ودور مبادرات من هذا النوع في تشجيع التجارة وعلى الأخص خلق مسارات مختلفة للتجارة الفلسطينية. لقاءنا اليوم راح يكون باللغة الإنجليزية مثل ما عودتكم بين الفترة والتانية، نستضيف بعض الأحبة وبعض الأصدقاء من عديد من الدول، والغاية طبعا لمجتمع الأعمال وكل الناطقين في وطننا باللغة الإنجليزية. وبنفس الوقت هو متحدثنا موجود معنا اليوم ناطق طبعا باللغة الإنجليزية، وهو أورست Tokac, Economic and Trade Officer of the EU Office in Jerusalem. واللي بحكي له thank you for being with me and good to see you, Orest.
شكرا جزيلا. Very nice to be with you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, actually welcome to our talk show. As I said, my guest is the Trade Officer of the EU Office in Jerusalem. The reason that we are here is to talk specifically about the containers pilot initiative. When I'm talking about containers, I'm talking about shipping in 40 and 20 foot containers, saving time, money, posting, trade, as well as to help expand Palestinian trade and improve overall economic conditions for the Palestinian, which is funded by the UK government. So this is the concept of the initiative, and that's why Mr. Orest is my guest today at the studio. And I remind you that we have participating in this initiative, and we spoke many times with the Minister of Trade Minister of Economy about such initiatives. Orest, thank you again for being with me, and good to see you. First of all, how it came about, why we have such initiative, and the purpose of having such initiative to encourage the import and export from and via Jordan from time to time. Why we started such initiative actually?
So this initiative is very important for Palestinian trade, and equally it is important for the European Union and Palestine's partners, international partners. We started last month with an expanded initiative that allows shipping of large 40-foot containers. And this is significant, and it builds on an earlier initiative that we started already in February, when small containers were allowed, 20-foot containers. Containers were never before allowed to be used by Palestinians in international shipping. So this is a very significant measure. It is both economically and politically significant. You mentioned that it will help save time, costs for traders. It will help improve the competitiveness of Palestinian businesses, boost the overall trade, diversify Palestinian trade, and also help to increase revenue collection for the government. So it is a win-win situation for the private sector, for the government. Here, allowing the shipping of containers is also very symbolically and politically important, because containers were never before used in Palestinian trade for several reasons. One of them was also security restrictions that are imposed on the border between West Bank and Jordan, but also economical arguments such as the demand for such containers. So here we come, we allow the introduction of shipping of containers. This is enabled first of all by EU funding. So we have funded a forklift, a reach stacker, that is now placed at the crossing that can lift these large containers.
In the Israeli side, of course, not in the Jordanian side.
In the West Bank side, so it is controlled by Israel. The forklift is funded by the European Union, and it is there to enable Palestinian trade. It is there for the benefit of Palestine, and we put it together in place with our partners from the Palestinian Authority, Ministry of Economy, but also the Administration of Borders and Crossings, the Ministry of Civil Affairs, and the Israeli side, of course, as well. So for us, this is a confidence-building measure, an economic one that helps improve Palestinian trade, Palestinian economy, helps reduce the cost of goods, which is something that is also very important in this time where we see spiking prices of food and energy. So reduce the cost of living and improve the living standards for the Palestinians. For us, we hope that such measures can lay the groundwork also for more impactful economic and political measures to be put in place in the Palestinian economy. We hope that this can improve the possibilities for Palestinians, the international community, to allow for establishment of bonded warehouses, customs areas, development of logistics infrastructure, redeployment possibly of Palestinian PA officials at the border crossing.
So the first export was on 1st of February, I mean this year, for about 20 feet or 20-foot container to Malaysia. And when we import 40-foot container from Spain via Aqaba port, then to Alawi Bridge or to King Hussein Bridge. What were the requirements actually to by importer or the exporter according to the EU standards or the Ministry of Economy standards? Do you think there is a bureaucratical procedures, or do you think the current procedures encouraging more importers and exporters, as you mentioned, that in the 1st of November it will be the first evaluation for the initiative?
So indeed, the first export was in February. It went to Malaysia. It was olive oil. The first import came from China, and this is when we imported
for 20 feet
20-foot container. And just last month, on the 18th of August, we had the first import of a large 40-foot container from Spain. And I think this also demonstrates that allowing shipment in containers is something that links Palestine better with the world. So they have the possibility, Palestinian traders, to ship at reduced costs, faster time, both to places that are far away, like China, Malaysia, but also redirect some of the shipping and use alternative routes. And this is in particular...
Even from Europe as well?
So this is a very interesting example.
This is the big challenge, I believe.
We see, so logically, if you look at the map, the straightforward connection would be between Spain, Israeli ports, and Palestine. Here, the shipment has gone through the Suez Canal, then arriving at the Aqaba port and moving all the way up to Alawi Bridge, King Hussein Bridge, and over to Palestine.
By truck to the bridge.
Yes.
Yeah.
The container remains sealed and put on a truck. We're still using a back-to-back method.
I think it's only for dry containers, I believe. Only dry containers.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Indeed. Yeah. So any interested business can benefit from the initiative. It just needs to use standard steel containers, 20 or 40 foot. It needs to follow certain, standard, I would say, standard security and customs clearance processes. There is prior coordination. The businesses, they need to contact a customs or clearing agent that does all the coordination with the authorities that manage the bridge. And I think the processes are quite straightforward. So there is also several publications that we have put out together with colleagues from the Ministry of National Economy that outline all the details, the weight of the container, the height of the pallets. So far, we have the limitation that goods inside of the containers, they need to be palletized.
Yeah.
We are working with all of our partners to remove this limitation, also to allow for unpalletized goods to be shipped over.
And do you think you can succeed with this?
I have very good confidence that we can find solutions, that we can find technical solutions.
Which will reduce more cost.
It will even reduce further cost.
Yeah.
I can talk also a little bit about the estimations in terms of what cost savings and time savings businesses can have. But before that, yes, still on how businesses can benefit. It's also very important that there is the subsidy scheme, and you mentioned it at the very beginning, that is put in place by our partners from the UK government. $1,500 that any business can benefit from.
For 6 times.
For 6 times, once they submit the documentation, the shipping documentation to the UK development project.
I'm sorry, but I'm just a little bit concerned about this. If I will continue as an importer or exporter, whatever, to import 20-foot or 40-foot containers, do you think I will continue working with this initiative after the end of the donation or the support funded by the EU and the UK government, which is $1,500 for 6 times? I mean, for 6 importing operation for 6 containers. Do we have a vision what is going on, or what will happen after this will end, and the percentage of the reducing cost? Is it 10%? Is it 20%? Is it 30%?
So in terms of overall impact, first perhaps on the cost. It depends where the business is importing from or where it is exporting. We've done several calculations, and we estimate that per container, using this new initiative, businesses can save between $150 to $300. Now, this was a theoretical calculation that was based on studies that we have conducted also in the past. Now we have already several containers and businesses that used the initiative, so we have some empirical data.
And you have more, I think, during September.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We definitely are going to receive more containers going ahead September, October, and November. Now, in the past experience that we already had, I can tell you one example. This included savings of $1,700 for a particular business, and now I will not name this particular company, but it is a lot of money that they saved basically by...
We are talking about the 40-foot container.
We're talking about the large container, where definitely there is additional cost in terms of handling, palletization, and administrative costs that businesses incur when they ship through Aqaba port and when they put all the goods on flatbed trucks. So there is a lot of money that can be saved by businesses by just keeping the container, taking it from a ship as it arrives to the Aqaba port, and putting it on a truck and shipping directly to Palestine.
And I believe there will be some simplification of the procedures on the Jordanian side as well.
Indeed. So
they are interested, I believe so.
Definitely. I think it empowers both the position of the Aqaba port strategically. For Palestine, it definitely empowers the King Hussein Bridge as a gateway to international markets. So for Palestinian trade, strategically, it makes sense that a crossing is empowered where Palestine also eventually sees its staff being redeployed and control being perhaps reestablished in the future. So definitely important for Palestinian trade. In terms of overall figures, we have also calculated that full-fledged containerization can expand the Palestinian trade at the crossing, at the King Hussein Bridge, by some 20 to 30%, which is a huge amount.
Absolutely.
And definitely, so going back to your question, there are significant cost savings for businesses. This example that I just gave you,
when we compare between Ashdod, Haifa ports or the King Hussein Bridge.
Yes, both. So first, if you compare just the standard way of shipping right now, where businesses are importing to the Aqaba port and they need to palletize everything, to put it on flatbed trucks, and to ship it up to the crossing. Just by not palletizing at Aqaba, they save, and this particular business has saved $1,700. This is, I think, an amount that is very significant. We have the subsidy in place.
As a net amount.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We have a subsidy in place in the first instance to address the issue of first mover problem, right? Because businesses are used to ship in a particular way. This is something that is new. In order to encourage it, to also change the way how traders are shipping, we have put in place the subsidy. So the subsidy is to address the first mover problem, but we believe that once this is established, once there are many companies that have benefited from the initiative and that can also spread the word and information about the possibility to ship in this manner, we believe that this is something that is economically self-sustainable. And we would not foresee to continue with a subsidy of this kind forever, because we also think that by allowing for containers, allowing for this new shipping method, this will empower traders and from the very essence of it, help save costs. There are also time savings, which are very considerable.
Absolutely.
In particular, if businesses...
It's worth it in time-wise.
So first example that I would give is just the time spent at the crossing. Currently, a container loaded with pallets can take up to 1 hour to be processed, meaning you offload all the pallets from so here the comparison is made between the pallets that are loaded in a container and the pallets if they were just put on a flatbed truck. So if a truck arrives at the crossing,
the Jordanian truck,
exactly, they need to offload everything from the truck and they need to scan it. Just the scanning time takes around 1 hour.
It's one time scanning or 2 times?
It is one time scanning.
It's one time.
So for export, it is not even for exports going from Palestine to the world, to Jordan. They are not scanned because well, typically they employ a risk-based inspection method. So for exports, there is limited risk. Of course, they could be scanned also for export, but typically they are not. Same for the imports that are going into Palestine. The Jordanian side, they are not scanning because same argument applies for the risk. But it is one-time scanning. It takes about 1 hour to scan all the pallets. Now, to scan one container, it is only 6 minutes. So it reduces a lot of time waiting actually at the crossing, and it can also have definitely an impact in reducing traffic. So if trucks are moving faster, it means there is less traffic, which will also have potentially spillover to passenger traffic, because we know that the same bridge actually is used by both cargo and passenger shipments. So this is something that is important to consider. But then second is the transit time, that is actually for export in particular much higher if Palestinian businesses are using the Israeli ports, because typically they would use the ports, they will go via Suez Canal and then go to Asia. Here you use directly, so you are able to load your container in Palestine, ship it directly through the crossing, come to Aqaba, put it on a boat, and the transit time that we have calculated, not only calculated because this is based on actual experience that we have had under the pilot, the difference is about 10 days. So this is very significant, in fact, for businesses.
So do you think soon you could overcome some obstacles? Logistical issues in Palestine is the most complicated issues maybe in the world. Importing and exporting, security check, whatever. You have many authorities, especially the Israeli authorities by force and whatever. Is there any way that to reduce more cost and more time when you import via King Hussein Bridge to make it more easier and to encourage importers to use it more and more? I'm not talking about now if there could be any Israeli obstacles in the future. Nobody can guess that. I'm just talking in logical or logistical issue. Do you think there is any alternatives or any new procedures that could be suggested or could be studied to reduce more time and cost?
So first of all, I would focus on making this pilot a success, because it is for the first time that containers are allowed.
Yep.
We are still in a trial phase,
Yep.
and we need to demonstrate together with the Palestinian Authority and the businesses that this is something that is feasible. I mentioned at the beginning that there were security limitations, but also economical arguments. Right? There were arguments that there is actually no demand in Palestine for containers, which I would find to be quite bizarre, because all global trade is done in containers. This is the best way of shipping in long distances. So we need to be able to demonstrate that, yes, this is feasible. Yes, Palestinian businesses can ship as any other businesses globally. And this is also a matter of symbolical importance. And here I would like to invite every listener, every business that is currently importing or exporting to use this initiative, to use the possibility to ship in containers, because we believe that this can also lead up to future measures to be put in place to facilitate Palestinian trade at the border crossing. We know that the pilot, as it is put in place now, it has several limitations that need to be considered. First, we're still requiring to palletize the goods. I hope that this can be addressed going ahead in future, at least for specific types of goods that do not require or are not palletized usually. Some of them, it's better to ship it on pallets. So in those cases, it's not a limitation actually.
As any seaport or whatever.
Exactly. Then there is obviously the need to offload some of the goods in cases of inspection, of physical inspection. But so far what we have seen is quite a goodwill approach from the management of the crossing to have the goods or the shipments that come under this pilot treated according with all the best practices, I would say. There are some limitations in terms of the storage of containers. And you mentioned infrastructure development. We don't have in Palestine a facility that would allow for storage of containers.
It should be
containers depot.
Shipped back to Amman again.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here...
Which is a cost as well.
Yes, it is a cost. It is a cost. It's something for businesses to consider, but from our calculations, it is still beneficial and still produces cost savings if the initiative is used, even with returning the containers back to Jordan. We hope that we can work together with our partners from the Palestinian Authority and with the business community to establish such containers depot or containers logistics facility that would be close
Jericho,
to
whatever.
the border crossing and would allow for businesses actually to end the demurrage in that logistics facility. Of course, infrastructure development takes more time than trade facilitation measures. We also know that the working hours of the crossing are limited.
Absolutely.
They're open, so the crossing typically is open from 8 in
which
the morning.
Which is a challenge as well.
It is definitely a challenge. We've seen recently a crisis with the passengers, and one of the reasons for this huge backlog of passengers is also the fact that the same crossing is used for passengers and cargo. So here we know, well, the last container or the last truck to enter the crossing must be there at 3 o'clock. It is suboptimal, right? If you cannot use the crossing 24/7, maybe this is something we can also work on together with all the parties and put in place measures that would help further expand Palestinian trade. So operating hours.
And that will reduce the time for coordination and getting the approval to take the gate pass and to import your shipment or whatever. That there will be, I believe, a positive issues once you have a 24/7.
So in terms of coordination, well, if you have 24/7, obviously it will have positive impact.
Yep.
And we see this backlog of trucks also sometimes. So longer operating hours is something that, at least from our side, from the European Union, we consider as an important measure. We know that there are considerations now by the Israeli authorities to expand the operating hours for passenger traffic. Perhaps the same can be done for cargo shipment as well. Now, if you consider just the administrative steps, I think it would be very useful for you to talk with the businesses directly that have used it already. The feedback that I'm receiving is quite positive. Businesses that do the proper coordination through the clearing agents, they are able to pass the crossing, in particular under this pilot, quite smoothly. So this gives us confidence that indeed this is something that helps the businesses, helps save time, helps save costs, and will in fact lead to increased trade at the crossing.
Yep. So briefly, it is about $1,700 reducing of cost. I mean the first evaluation, and I will invite Mr. Orest in next November, if he would like to be my guest again, to talk about the whole initiative and how many containers we have, how to encourage people to continue. I would like to invite actually all the importers and exporters to visit the Ministry of Economy website as well as the EU website to know more about this initiative. And of course, we will follow up with our colleagues and our partners to know about every single shipment that will be cleared from King Hussein Bridge, and to see the procedures, to look for the procedures, to evaluate it, and to talk about the cost and time and how we can play our part as well as a media specialized in economy and trade and export, import and export, to see more initiatives and to see the importers and exporters is feeling better, having their business, and that might also reduce the cost on the consumers. If we are talking about $1,700 per container, we believe that could also encourage the competition between traders as well as the consumer prices. Thank you for joining me, Orest, and I will be glad to invite you again, and I will invite actually many speakers to talk about these issues. And I would like to see if you have a message to the importer who is trying or at least still thinking to import or to export from the King Hussein Bridge.
Thank you very much. It was my pleasure to be here with you today and to discuss this initiative. I would definitely invite all the businesses that are shipping and that consider this initiative, make use of it. It comes with a subsidy. It comes with the possibility to save money. Of course, it is an additional effort of changing things, of changing the way you're currently shipping, but it is of strategic, political, and also symbolic importance for Palestine. So use the initiative for your own benefit and for the benefit of your country.
Use it. Thank you. Thank you again, Orest. Thank you for everyone. We'll see you next time.